Bucks if you get this. Okay. Hey, welcome to the Glen Podcast, the best podcast you'll listen to all day. Sponsored by Mission Blueprint. Hey, welcome back, everybody. Dr. Dennis is with us. Hey, we got Katie.
Hi,
from
Katie.
Belfouche. Say
Hello.
hey, Kate. Can I call you Kate?
Everyone calls me Kate. That's fine.
Kate,
Kate plus
Katie.
8.
I know Kate very, very well. Listen, we're going to get to Katie in just a minute. Hey, favorite movie quote. If you can guess this quote, I'll give you $10.
Your favorite movie quote.
This is my favorite movie quote.
You know, I'm drawn, and we haven't talked about this, but I'm really drawn to a few good men. You want the truth? You can't handle the truth.
Yeah, but you got to guess it.
I have to guess.
You guess this quote, I'll give you $10. Ready?
Yeah.
I brought you here for I am Spartacus.
Favorite movie quote.
That's my favorite. Guess it. $10. I'll give you $10.
What movie is that from?
That's what you got to guess. Sorry, I wasn't real clear maybe in the very beginning.
Okay.
Guess that movie quote, Dennis.
Say it one more time.
No, that's it.
Okay. I'm Spartacus.
I brought you here. I am Spartacus. Time's up.
Yeah.
That thing you do. Katie, did you know that one?
God, I should have thought of that. I should have known it was from that movie.
You are on such a kick with that movie. I have to see it.
It's fun. How about
I should have known better.
Anybody want to challenge me? Now, Dennis, go ahead. Challenge me on a movie quote. See if I can get it.
Okay.
Any movie you want.
Okay. There is, you never have time if you never take time.
You never have time until you take time.
No, you never have time if you never take.
If you never take time.
Take time.
I don't know it. What is it?
Second Matrix movie, Merovingian.
Oh, man. Hey, this is in the news. I think both of you will think this is very interesting. I wasn't planning on talking about this, but Tom Brady's bizarre pregame rituals are designed by his good witch wife, Giselle. Now, allegedly, and people on Twitter are all over the place on this one,
Okay.
but supposedly Tom Brady's wife is a witch. And guess who's admitting this?
His
Tom
wife?
Brady.
Oh.
You can go online, and I was watching a podcast yesterday. I can't remember the name of the podcast. You can go online, and ladies and gentlemen, I will post this just so you can watch it for yourself. But he was getting a shave. I think he was promoting Gillette. Getting a shave, and they were asking him about his pregame rituals. And then he says, my wife said to listen to me because I'm a witch, but I'm a good witch.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And so there's a lot of people who are taking that literal. Now, here's what's interesting for me, because there's people who don't believe that witches exist. Do you believe witches exist?
You're so funny you're bringing this up because, I mean, we're right on the heels of
Halloween
and All Saints Day. I was just talking to my staff and some friends about the Wiccan coven that's in the Brookings region and how strong it is. And that it's really a thing around here.
It's really a thing everywhere. Everywhere.
I didn't know that there was one growing up where I grew up. I don't think they had them in Minnesota.
I think they did.
You think so?
Yes. Even in my small town, they're everywhere, but they don't come out and say it. They can't come out and say it.
Why not?
Because they remain hidden. They can't, if in this country, maybe anywhere in the world, if you come out and say, yeah, I'm a Satanist, or Satanist, people will say, dude, get away from me. I'm not going there. So they have to remain hidden. Anyway, Tom Brady, it's coming out that his wife may have been a witch. Now, Tom Brady is the GOAT, means greatest of all time, right?
Right.
7-time Super Bowl winner.
Yeah, like the guy's incredible.
Okay, Tom Brady was drafted in the first round, right?
Ooh, I couldn't tell you. I don't know sports
so
that well.
if you know sports, and I know a little bit of sports, and somebody can correct me, but the teams that do very well and usually end up in the Super Bowl are those teams that draft a quarterback in what round? What would you guess? First round.
First round, yeah.
Very first round.
Yeah.
Tom Brady was drafted 199th. He was the 199th pick in the 6th and final round. Now, let's just do some adding. Now, I'm not saying you can't be drafted in the last round or even last and be a great quarterback and a Super Bowl champ. I'm not saying that. But what's interesting about this story is the question, is it possible Giselle really, literally is a witch? And she performed, according to Tom Brady this article, and he said it. She performed rituals. She created an altar for him. He had like these stones that he wore. He wore something around his neck, some jewels. And she did this, and she would tell him when he's going to win the Super Bowl and when he's not. And so you got a guy who was drafted in the 6th round, pick 199, and he's the greatest of all time. Is it possible that this really is legit? Dennis, what say you?
Well, I mean, I've heard strange things in life. This comes to the top, but I mean, why not? Why not? There's a cross-cultural belief out there that you can speak things into existence. That is it Newism or New Ageism that talks about that a lot? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, positivism.
Yeah. So why not
speak it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think Oprah Winfrey had a show years ago, and it's called The Secret. It's The Secret. And she had a whole show about how if you just listen to your own vibes, you will be successful and a millionaire.
There is a really good cult following movie out there called The Secret. And it's about uncovering wisdom that wasn't shared with the common person hundreds of thousands of years ago that is now prevalent in our culture and in our society of a belief system. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'm not sure that this is conventional wisdom, though.
Okay.
This is following a certain voice inside of you. Again, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not a huge Oprah fan at all. I don't know the woman. I don't watch Oprah. I never watched her.
We should get her on this podcast.
Yeah, she would love to come on this podcast.
I know.
To get all the views we get.
It's the best podcast you listen to all day.
But Katie, are you aware of any witches in the Belle Fourche area?
No, but it's not like I'm actively looking for them either.
Well, yeah, I don't think people do. This story to me is very, very interesting, and it comes out right before Halloween, which is more interesting to me. Last week, Jamie and I did a show on Halloween. I don't think everybody loved it because we're saying some things that people are uncomfortable with, particularly that this is a Catholic feast day or a Catholic holiday. I've read that this is, Halloween's a Catholic holiday. It is not a Catholic holiday. In other words, if you go into the breviary, there is no liturgy for Halloween. It's All Saints' Day, and it is the eve of All Saints' Day. But I think there's a play on words here because if you think of the word hallow, Dennis, what does the word hallow mean?
Well, as I understand it, it is an old English word for like if you go out east where the hills and everything roll together, it's the hollow between hills, or hollow can just be empty.
Yeah. What the Satanic Church does is they take things that are Catholic and do the opposite. Like they have an Our Father prayer. They say it to their God Lucifer, but they say it backwards because we say ours forward. So they're always trying to reverse it. Jesus died at 3 p.m., so their hour is 3 a.m.
Which is ours. 3
Yeah.
a.m.
So anyway, it's all very, very interesting to me that this story.
So what's a
came
hollow
out.
to you?
Hollow could mean several things. Some of the material that I've read that seems to be substantiated is when the Satanists came to your door in the time of the Druids, way back then. They actually used a version of trick or treat. This is why Jamie and I don't go trick or treating, and so trick or treat. So you had to give them a treat, and you can give them one of your children to sacrifice, money or animals, livestock, and if it wasn't up to their par, if they weren't satisfied, they would hollow out a piece of fruit. And they would put that in front of your door or in front of the village. And they would call upon demons to come and possess. And so that's another version of the word Halloween.
Wow.
It's very interesting. This is a little controversial. That's why my wife and I just say, we're not going to do it. We're not going to go trick-or-treating. I think we want to baptize it. We'll do All Saints' Day parties. And, I think Katie and probably her spouse don't partake in Halloween like traditional Americans do, because to me, it doesn't make any sense to dress up as a goblin. It just doesn't make it to my Christian faith. So anyway, let's move on. I want to move on to
that was heavy.
Well, that was last week, and I already touched on last week. So Anyway, I don't want to move on too quickly, but any comments about Tom Brady, Giselle, which?
No, I just found your feed on Twitter where he's talking about her building the altar and everything. I mean, I think that let's drop that in the comment section below so people can check that out. That's wicked.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. Katie, any comments on Tom Brady, Giselle being a witch?
I had actually heard of that a little while ago, and I don't know. These days, nothing surprises me anymore.
Is it a
So-
PR trick? I mean, is it
Could
playing
be.
on the fact that Halloween is around here and why not get him a little more press? He's having an awful season. He's not playing real great. I mean,
Why is he having an awful season?
because the witch told him he was having a bad season.
And did the witch stop performing rituals?
Probably not.
I mean,
but
they haven't been getting along. I heard that she, like Brad Pitt and Jolie. Yeah,
Jolie.
they were married, but they were living in separate parts of their mansion, and they weren't talking for years. And then finally, they divorced each other.
Nobody's marriage is like that. What are you talking about? That
Mine is perfect. Anyway, moving right along. Hey, let's get into the crux of this podcast.
dun dun dun.
You know what? I have been too ignorant when it comes to politics most of my life, particularly in the local arena.
Mm-hmm.
Most Americans, in my view, you can correct me, Katie or Dennis, if I'm wrong, but I think most Americans, we have our eyes on the federal, the presidency, the national level. And we don't really focus as much on the local level because we know the local people and they're good people and they would never do anything behind our backs, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I thought it would be a good podcast to discuss what are we voting on. And this is how maybe naive or ignorant I am. I'll use the word ignorant. I'm okay with that. I didn't know, and we're going to get to this in a second, I Am 27 was even being voted on until about 2 weeks ago.
You're kidding.
No, I didn't know. So that's where my brain is. But anyway, I want to go through the ballot here.
Katie, do you want to rip on him now or catch him later?
You sure can rip on me. I just didn't know it was on the
it's
ballot.
fine. I was in that same boat. I mean, almost my whole life. So
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, I don't think it's fair for me as your podcast guru to make any kind of comments about who you should vote for specific people. I'll tell you that I'm not voting for John Thune.
Okay.
I'm not going to do it. He's been there a long time, and I don't see a lot of fruit from John. I'm not voting for Dusty Johnson. He's a Republican, and I lean this way.
Mm-hmm.
So there's some people that I'm not sure if I'm going to vote for Kristi Noem even. I'm not sure yet.
Okay.
I probably will, but I don't know yet. I like Kristi so far. She didn't lock us down. I heard she was going to. I don't know if any of that's true, so I might leave that open. So I don't want to get into these. I probably should have went through and told you what I'm not going to do because I'm not going to do it anyway. I'm just going to move on, just because I don't want to get in hot water. So and here's the other thing I didn't, ladies and gentlemen, I had forgotten about the non-political ballot for judge of circuit court position A. You may vote for one, and there's only one there.
Right.
Right. How come there aren't two there, Dennis?
There's a lack of interest. There's a lack of qualified candidates.
And why is that?
People don't aspire to that job. They don't aspire to have that position. So,
You're being very professional here.
yeah.
People don't give a rip.
Yeah, they don't care.
They don't care.
Yeah.
Katie, would you agree with that?
yeah, I would think so. And it's interesting because in our circuit, it's the opposite, and you got to wonder why.
What do you mean by that? How is it opposite?
We had one person who was the former director of criminal investigation for South Dakota, David Natvig. He is running for our Fourth Circuit judge here, and then all of a sudden there was 4 other people that jumped into this race, and now it's become a hot race between the top 3, and it's very interesting what I've dug into the top 3 candidates for this, and it's very interesting what I've discovered. So yeah, I don't know what's going on there. It's really weird.
Well, I feel like saying, you know what? I don't know if you guys watch Seinfeld or not. Do you ever watch Seinfeld growing up, Dennis?
I've seen it a handful of times, yeah.
And
Yeah.
Katie, have you used? What are you eating?
Yeah.
Are you eating something?
Ice.
Ice. Katie, have you ever seen Seinfeld? Well, there was this episode where George didn't have a job, and he's sitting on Jerry's floor, and he's saying, maybe I'll become an actor. And then he says, well, maybe I'll become a GM of a baseball team. And Jerry said, well, I think you have to know something about baseball. And so I'm applying that to here. Well, maybe I'll become a judge. Can I just run to be a judge? Can I?
I think there's some qualifications like having a law degree or being on the bar, but yeah, I mean, you can sit for the bar.
Is that really necessary?
You know,
do I have to have a degree in law?
You don't have to have a degree in law to take the bar exam.
Okay.
So if you study and prep and do your preparations, you can
cheat. I'd have to cheat to pass that, I'm sure.
You wouldn't have to. It's just mass memorization.
Okay, here's a hot question. Ladies and gentlemen, you probably don't care about this at all, but I think some of you don't know, and I really don't know. And again, I'm pleading ignorance twice today. I really don't know what county commissioners do. So we have for county commissioner at large, what do they really do?
So county commission meets once a month, at least ours do here, and they're the ones that dictate and hand out funding from the state and region for each township for road maintenance, utility upgrades, culvert replacement, and then they handle all of the governing outside of the city proper.
And slush funds.
Yeah, to some degree. I mean, the overflows. Big thing is road maintenance. That is their
right.
major budgetary issue because they have to help maintain all of these people that live rurally. They have safe means and transportation to work.
Okay, so we have 5 on the ballot. Katie, how many commissioners are on your ballot? Do you know?
So far, just one.
So
I'm really hoping he'll get in because our commission really needs some change up.
Okay, Dennis, I'm going to put you on the spot, and you're a boy with big pants, and you can say I'm not going to comment, but who are you voting for county commissioner at large?
So on this list, I know 3 of the candidates by name and one personally. So I like Larry Jensen, Kelly Vanderwall, and Gretchen. Those are the people that I know of.
You think they're doing a good job?
Well, I think they will do a good job. None of them have. Larry Jensen has sat on the county commission before. The rest of them, I don't know.
Okay. And how do I, as a voter, find more information about what they've done as county commissioners?
So there has been public debates and public opportunities at the city-county building every Saturday for the last 6 weeks. And it's from 9 a.m. till they do a little coffee and donuts. And you can come in and you could question and interview and, as an adoring public, get to know your candidates. Okay. And that's been going on up at the... It isn't broadly advertised or marketed, per se.
Why?
Because it's government. They just have to put a notice out. It isn't sexy. It isn't fancy. It isn't out there. It's more the candidate's responsibility to try to draw the attention to them. It's a public forum. And it's.
Have you checked any for, sorry to interrupt, but do you guys have checked for any kind of Facebook campaign pages?
Ooh.
Some will have those up too.
Yeah, I do that.
Okay.
Yeah, I look into that. I'll do that a lot more as the weekend comes here because there's a lot of time between now and Election Day for somebody to do something stupid.
Oh, yeah. And even if you just type their name in Google, that's how I've done a lot of research. If they've done stuff, it'll show up in articles or, that's pretty easy to do too.
Kate, do you want to speak into our county commissioners at large?
What do you mean?
I'm just kidding. Oh.
I have no clue.
I know. I'm just kidding. All right. So, and then we have all these judges. And do you know any of these judges? Are they all good? Is there one particular judge?
I mean, there's no running candidates. The only place is the position E, Circuit George, 3rd Circuit Court. That's the only one where there's 2 judges to choose from, Robert Spears and Michael Moore.
Okay, so here's an interesting question for both of you. If I'm voting and I don't know any of these people, Carmen Means, Dawn, Elsher, what do I do? Do I vote for them? Do I not vote for them? I'm just curious. What is the common voter? What should we have common voters do, Dennis?
Well, as I think you should vote if you truly support and stand behind that person. If you don't and you don't know them, I would leave it blank because you don't want to endorse yourself because this is a voting record. This is a record.
What do you mean it's a voting record?
This is your voting record.
They're going to know how I vote?
Yeah.
How long has this been going on?
Years.
Whoa. Are you saying the state of South Dakota, somewhere, they have a record on how I have been voting?
I'm assuming so. Why else would you give them your driver's license and then have to do a sealed envelope with your barcode across the bottom of it?
Okay, this is all new information here.
Well, in a way, I would hope they would, just to help with election integrity, honestly.
Exactly.
Is it public knowledge? I mean, can I go online and find out how I voted?
No, I don't think so. I think they're sealed.
I thought this was supposed to be a private thing.
It is, but I think
It's not a private thing.
But you don't sign your name to the top of it. You're
Yeah,
just
but if
a
they know
number.
how I vote, how is that? I don't know if this is right.
Well, why not? You register when you get your driver's license, whether you're an independent Democrat or a Republican.
You're going to say something else.
Well, libertarian.
Dumb Republican? Okay, anyway.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
You can be
I don't know.
socialist.
I think it's weird that there's a record on how I voted. I thought it was a private thing.
It is, but yeah,
No, it's not. It's not a private thing. If I can go look up can anybody go look up on how I voted?
I don't think so because
Oh.
I think it's sealed by the courts, and you would have to have, much like we saw with the 2020 election with Trump, you would have to have federal, and you would have to have a very serious court case to go back and recount ballots and revalidate ballots. Hugely arduous. I don't think anybody really has ever challenged it to that degree, but you can have a ballot recount after an election if it's too close.
Okay, speaking about ballot recount, I mean, I'm taking a tangent here. Is that our bell ringing or is that Katie's bell ringing?
It's not my bell.
That's our bell. It's dinner bell.
Holy
1 o'clock.
shnikes.
Ding dong.
Talking about recount,
Yeah.
can we just quick tangent to what's going on? The presidential election 2020 recount. Is it over with? I mean, is anyone investigating? I know this is 2022. Most people believe Trump lost. I'm not one of those people. I think Trump won because of some of the things that I saw are crazy to me, and you can't move on. And look what has happened in the last 2 years. What about the...
How long is someone on death row before they die? Before they get executed? Years and years. Why would election counting and anything that would change the stability of our national election system, why would that happen with any amount of speed?
Well, that's true, especially if the party... I don't want to say party because I'm not so sure that... do you know where I'm going with this?
Yeah.
I'm not so sure that there's integrity. Like John Thune here, he's a Republican. Is he really, or is he Republican in name only? Is he really a liberal that is a sleeper, I would say. I'm not sure if that's a technical term or not, but I think that's all over the place. So people who don't want Trump in 2020, they're not going to... they're going to just prolong it until it doesn't matter anymore.
Well, the wheels of justice turn slowly.
Okay, but where are we on 2020?
Well, I think from what I understand, the Supreme Court chose to accept a case talking about election integrity from a certain state. So they were going to hear that. And if they agree to, I think it was something about giving power back to the states to decide on that, that's going to be a huge win for us. And that might be the one domino that is needed to fall to go back and make 2020 right again. So I haven't heard anything, though, on that just yet.
What state?
I can't remember. I want to say, although I might be wrong, but I thought it was like something like Alabama, but I could be wrong on that. I know Hillary Clinton just did a short video and she's freaking out about it. So that should tell you something.
Ooh, if she's freaking out, that's good for the
She's freaking out about the
conservatives.
Supreme Court case. She's really worried about it. So,
I mean, and then Pennsylvania. What in the world? Kate, what happened in Pennsylvania? And they got away with this. Do you remember what happened? Or Dennis, either one of you?
I don't. I lost so much track of all of that because there was stuff in Michigan and Arizona and
yeah, it's all over the place.
Okay.
South Dakota, too. I mean, South Dakota, it's been noted that we've got our own level of corruption going on with
inconsistencies.
elections.
Back to South Dakota, ladies and gentlemen. Constitutional Amendment D. The title, an initiated amendment to the South Dakota Constitution expanding Medicaid eligibility. What in the world does this even mean, Dennis? Tell us what this is about.
All right, Katie, do you know much about this one?
As far as I know, it's basically expanding Medicaid, and they're saying that it's going to help more people. But when I've dug into it, it just shows that it's really not going to help anybody. And obviously we can't afford it. And it looks like it's just another way for big government to get more money from us. But from what little I know about it, it seems like you'll get more help or be accepted into Medicaid or whatever if you stay within a certain income bracket, and if you make more money, then you will be kicked out. And so they're saying, oh, this is going to help farmers. This is going to help all these other people. But in a way, it actually keeps them down because they'll risk losing Medicaid if they make more money and get more successful.
So this is all about providing medical coverage for low-income families. And
the other thing to think about too is they want to put that in the Constitution. And someone was saying you shouldn't be dealing with money and, in that sense,
the purse,
and changing our Constitution just so that you can get more money. Like that's really sketchy. So I was automatic, like, nope, I'm voting no on Amendment D.
And she's right. The Amendment D here is about moving and it's interesting the words that they use here, the federal poverty level, because they don't use the federal poverty level anymore. There's a supplemental poverty level formula that the government uses now that accounts for. So the federal poverty level is just based on a 1963 model algorithm of what is the cost of food for a family of X, Y, or Z. So you have a family household of?
Well, 7.
So what is your monthly grocery budget?
$20,000.
Okay. So federal poverty level would be you spend the average in 1963 was people were spending a third of their income on food.
Okay.
So you would take that times 3. So your poverty level would be then $60,000 for a family of 7 monthly. Well, the algorithm didn't account for food stamps, EBT, social programs
Why not?
Because that wasn't how the formula was written in the government.
So so many things have changed.
So many things have changed, and there's been such an outpouring and a development of social stabilizing programs like food stamps, energy assistance, things like that.
Yeah, but certainly these people who are drafting this would know that, right?
You would think, but this is where you have to pay attention to the words, because the words is where you manipulate what that budgetary line is. And so for that regard, if you have the federal poverty level versus the socially adjusted, the new socially adjusted accounts for those supplemental things that the government hands out to help support families who are in poverty or in financial trouble. And it subtracts out their medical expenses. This is why the push for expanding Medicaid, because Medicaid is a form of government health insurance and health coverage. And do recognize the long game here for everybody is a European model of free healthcare.
Here we go again.
And this is, other states have adapted and are expanding this, because states like California, New York, they're expanding this to such a degree that everybody in society has got free healthcare like you do in Canada.
Yeah.
But with that, you start increasing your federal income tax rates and all those sorts of things. I'm with Katie on this one. This isn't a place, the Constitution isn't a place to talk about Medicaid and government insurance.
Why?
Because it takes the voting body to change the state constitution. This is a state representative and state legislator issue that should be handled in session. And
what are they, too lazy, or what's going on, or why is it on the ballot then?
Because if you supersede the legislature, you can take a liberal idea and get it past the people.
Gotcha.
When they don't feel like they're equally represented at the state level, because we tend to lean one way as a state.
I am so glad we're talking about Constitutional Amendment D, because I was going to pass over and I thought, let's talk about it. This is very, very interesting to me.
And you have to understand the language behind it. And if you don't research the words that are in it, you can completely miss the definition of what it is you're voting on.
Well, in the name of the great Huey Lewis, he said, I want a new drug. One that does what it should.
Amen. I'm in. I am in.
And let's talk about drugs.
For everybody.
Let's talk about drugs. I need more pills in my life, don't you?
I've got 5.
I need to pop more pills, ladies and gentlemen, make me feel better because my pain is so bad. Anyway, I'm not making a mockery of this.
Dr. Feelgood.
I think there's there might be a use for medical marijuana, and we're moving past that in IM 27. But when I first heard about medical marijuana, I said, you know what? There's probably less than 1% of people that could probably use it, but there's no alternative. Really? There's no. Anyway, so here we are in the state of South Dakota, which surprises me. And I would say, let's recount those votes. That's what I would want to say. In the last time we voted for marijuana, here it's on the ballot again. Honestly, ladies and gentlemen, sorry about this. I didn't know until about 2 or 3 weeks ago. We're voting on this. So this is Initiated Measure 27, title: An Initiated Measure Legalizing the Possession, Use, and Distribution of Marijuana.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay, so
They're building a brand new dispensary in Brookings.
well, we're going to get to that in a second. So this initiated measure legalizes the possession, use, and distribution of marijuana and marijuana paraphernalia by people aged 21 and older. Well, thank you, state of South Dakota. At least you're not going 10. Individuals may possess one. This is the most interesting line out of this whole thing for me. Individuals may possess 1 ounce or less of marijuana. They may also distribute 1 ounce or less of marijuana without payment or other consideration.
Great. You have a household of 7. You can have 7 ounces.
And I can distribute that. Hey, Dennis, do you need an ounce of marijuana?
I do.
Let's just say you don't.
Do you have any of that Huey Lewis?
Sorry about my language, but I have to ask, what the hell is going on here? I shouldn't say that, but honestly.
South Dakota's behind the times.
Okay.
So recognize that this is coming on the heels of the fentanyl issue.
Tell us about that.
So in the medical community, there is huge problems with pill sales and pill stealing, and for codeine and fentanyl and all these different pain-killing drugs. Well, if you understand the molecular structure of things like fentanyl and morphine, morphine comes from opium. Opium is the precursor for heroin. It's just a lesser drug that gives you the same chillaxed pain management without having the huge addictive qualities that things come with heroin or fentanyl, where people are killing themselves. Angela Kinnicky is a huge proponent of this because her daughter overdosed on painkillers. And not that she supports IM27. I don't know what her position is, but she's one of those out there that really wants to see our culture move away from the medical model of using pills and other alternatives. Marijuana has been out there for thousands of years as a alternative for pain management.
Okay, so you're a doctor.
I am.
You know a couple things about the body and how it works.
Yeah.
I was told growing up, and Kate, you may have been told the same thing. I'm not sure. You can speak into that if you want in a second. But I was told growing up, the reason why marijuana is not legal, because it attacks a certain part of the brain. And if you smoke too much pot, it sort of ruins a certain part of the brain. And you can see behavioral patterns with people. And some people call them potheads because there's a certain rhythm in the way they do things. You could say they've lost their marbles in a sense, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's why they could never legalize marijuana. Now, is there any truth to that?
It's older than that.
Oh, tell me more.
So, Katie, do you know the history
of marijuana?
Yeah.
No.
So you have to go back to colonial times, because what was the true purpose of marijuana in 1778?
I have no idea.
Hemp. What do you use hemp for? Katie?
I've seen it in a variety of things.
Yeah.
Necklaces.
It used to be used for clothing because it was a fibrous material very similar to cotton, and you could weave it, and you could draw it out into linens, you could draw it out into fabric, and you could create clothing from hemp fiber. Now, it also produced this really unique leaf that was also able to be dried and
smoked.
who is it directly competing with in the colonial times?
What do you mean? Who is it directly competing?
Who else was producing fibrous material to make clothing and products to smoke?
The British?
No, American farmer. Cotton and tobacco.
Ding, ding, ding. I'm following you.
So that's when marijuana really lost its footing, because it had two lobbying groups that were able to push it down as this isn't viable. There's addictive properties. It isn't good. The Native Americans use it for their sweat lodges, blah, blah, blah. So hemp got a bad name 300 years ago, but not for its bad qualities, just because it was a direct market competitor with cotton and tobacco. Now, fast forward a couple hundred years forward, big tobacco doesn't want to lose its footing. So we still got these cultural associations with, go back to Scooby-Doo.
Scooby-Doo?
Yeah.
I didn't watch much.
Okay, so Shaggy was always kind of that representation of that culture, right?
Okay.
Yeah. And that dubious subculture, like, man, this is so cool. Like, we have these stereotypes in our head of what marijuana users look like and who they are. But that's where we've come as a culture of asking the question, is this a medically valid way or product to use in the medical field? And now we're into this debate today of whether we should legalize it for distribution or not.
Okay, what do you think?
I say absolutely not.
Why?
Because is a substance, it's still not good.
But why is it not good? You said it.
It's like anything. If you keep alcohol in your house and you're not around your children, eventually your children experiment with it.
I never did. Just kidding. Just kidding.
If you were a smoker and you have cigarettes, your children steal cigarettes from you to go try. This is no different. You cannot control it. Your parents are going to be the people who have access to it. We all grew up in an era where our older brothers or older sisters or siblings would get us a case of beer on Friday night. Hey, you guys won the football game. Meet you uptown. This is just another gateway there. Now, do I think medical marijuana use, where you actually have a true medical condition, you have cancer, you have other things that are degenerating your bones, and there's a lot of pain, and there's a use for it, given marijuana over fentanyl? Hell yeah, every time. Mm-hmm. But then just keep it medical. It doesn't need to be legalized across the culture like alcohol.
Well, this is what bothers me. And Katie, you can speak into this if you want. The words of distribution. Distribution.
It's only an ounce.
Yeah, but okay. So, Katie, in your county, I heard that your county is creating many avenues for people to raise marijuana. Is that true?
Oh, yeah. It's like we've become the drug capital of South Dakota.
Okay, so how many...
Tell me more.
Yeah, tell us more about what's going on over there.
Well, yeah. Well, I know that's the thing. I'd like to know what's going on, too. But it started with our county commission as soon as the medical passed in 2020. That January, our county commission... and this is all according to the minutes that I was reading, they had a discussion about it. And then in June of 2021, they passed an ordinance allowing only 2 marijuana establishments in all of Butte County, one having to be a dispensary. But then in October of 2021, they amended that to where they allowed unlimited grow farms and then 2 of every other thing. So that'd be 2 of manufacturing, 2 dispensaries. There might be one more in there.
See, that's the value of a county commission right there.
Yeah, cannabis testing. So my biggest question is what happened between June and October. And the scariest thing is, from what I have been learning, is that when it comes to the drug cartels and all that side of stuff, when it comes to marijuana, when it comes to the level of crime that is brought into a certain area, it's the grow farms. That is what the cartels want more than anything. They will come and take over the grow farms. And our lovely county commission allowed unlimited grow farms in Butte County. So that was pretty terrifying. Then a group of citizens got together here and they fought back and said, you need to scale this down and you need to fix this. So then they're like, okay, we'll keep it to 5 grow farms. But they already got 7 permits submitted for grow farms, and they just grandfathered all of those into that other ordinance allowing unlimited. So even though our current ordinance allows 5, they grandfathered all these in. So we have 7 grow farms and a total of 13 marijuana establishments altogether so far in Butte County. And where we're at right now is trying to figure out why in the world they did this, because the only other county in South Dakota that even comes close to us is Brandon. They have 5 grow facilities.
Brandon County or Brandon City?
I'm assuming county.
That's not Minnehaha?
No.
Okay.
And so, and I think what's also sick is that we, throughout the state, we are forced to have, things like a dispensary. And I think it's because the group of people that first brought this whole thing into Colorado didn't check loopholes to where the communities were able to vote on if they wanted these dispensaries or not. And 60% of them voted no. And so when they came to South Dakota, they made sure to fix that so that we can't opt out of these things. We have to have them in our communities. And what's also really disturbing is that when it says local government in the South Dakota codified law and all of that concerning these things, local government means your county, and it means any town. So while our county has approved 13 of these marijuana establishments, that also means every town in our county can have their own as well. And we would just be overrun with these things. It's just ridiculous.
So you have one in Elkton, one in Arlington, one in Brookings, one in Esteline.
Right. So
Yeah,
every county can have some, depending on how that wanted to do. But what we've been saying to our county commissioners is, in the original ordinance, it said in there that they were going to write this ordinance up just to have something in place while they study and educate themselves on this whole thing, because they have a duty to do that because of the citizens that they serve and for our welfare and our safety and our health and resources, all that. But yet we cannot find any kind of record so far showing that they actually did their homework on this. And so this is what is just really screwing us over in Butte County, because they're approving grow facilities that had no water plans, that are next to major waterways, which is illegal for them to get water from. And I know that's a thing in Colorado. They'll just steal water because marijuana takes a lot more water than other conventional crops.
That's why it grew well in the
We
South.
also have a marijuana grow farm that's located in the same yard as foster parents that had foster kids. And the county commission didn't even know that it was there. They had no idea. And then a 35-person out-of-state LLC was approved with no proof of background checks. And then our state's attorney is helping our county commission with their paperwork, just to get it pushed through really fast. And that's just one thing. I mean, there's just so much stuff where it just shows, and I don't know. I don't know why our county commission is doing this and they won't listen to us when
There's
we're saying,
money
did you
there.
check and
There's
make sure
money.
we have water?
No, but there's money. There's money. There's an exchange of money there that's happening, and that's you're looking for breadcrumbs, and you got to follow the money. You got to look into these companies and find out where that money's going.
I know. It's just absolutely, it's so disgusting. And that's the thing, like when people are like, it's just marijuana, Jesus probably smoked it, all that stuff. But, it's like, okay, but there's people that have moved here to South Dakota to get out of Colorado. And these were people that have lived in Colorado their entire lives. And Colorado used to be a conservative state like South Dakota. And they said as soon as marijuana was legalized, it was the beginning of the end for Colorado. And it's horrible there all the way around.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, well, that's something that we should probably listen to, is these people that have direct experience with it. And on top of that, I don't know if you guys have heard of Protecting South Dakota Kids. Their website is protectingsdkids.com. And so they've been going around South Dakota giving talks on this whole thing. And they'll have a retired cop and give his side of the story on this and what he has seen. And then counselors and therapists talking about what they've seen with these teens that have gotten addicted to it and everything. And it's horrible. And the biggest thing is people, what they're saying is, you know, this marijuana thing, it's not the same as it was back in Woodstock in that whole time. They have changed marijuana to where now the THC levels went from 5% back in Woodstock days up to now it's 99%.
What does that mean?
Genetic modification. Same reason why on our family farm back home, 85 bushels to the acre was a good crop in 1960, and 300 bushels to the acre is a good crop this year.
Does it mean though it's more potent?
Oh yeah.
It's more potent.
Yeah,
And
that's what I was wondering.
It's got more kick. That's why you own an ounce, just a dab will do you.
Yeah. And I mean, they've made it way more potent, and then they're putting it in things like
Brownies.
gummy bears, and then kids get into those gummy bears. And then in Colorado, I guess they said there's fast food restaurants that are putting it in everything.
Mm-hmm.
And
why?
And
I
don't know, but
get your constant fix. It
Yeah,
makes
and
life
they're saying-
more. It makes life more doable.
Unbelievable.
Hey,
Yeah.
why
And
do-
so it's like people need to understand that this isn't the marijuana from back then. They've changed it up a lot. It's very dangerous.
And it's a gateway
now
drug.
it's in everything.
it's gateway, just like
Yeah.
alcohol can be a gateway into bad juju.
So Katie,
Well,
you were
and
saying,
what's funny too is that, you know, the pro marijuana people are saying, you know, peanuts kill more people than marijuana does. And it's totally safe, no side effects. And what I want to tell them then is, I said, okay, but in our ordinance, it says that the employees of these marijuana establishments cannot be on marijuana while they're working in the marijuana establishment, because they know it affects them, you know,
Impairs
it
their
alters
judgment.
your mind. And so I'm like, so can you tell me then, why is it there's no side effects, and tell me why this law is in here?
good question.
Mhm.
So, and it's like the thing, it's like, no, does marijuana immediately kill you? No, but I have a friend who lost her sister and baby niece in a car accident when a guy who was high on marijuana had a blown tire, and he lost control of his car and rolled it into my friend's sister's car and killed them. And she said, my biggest question is, if he wasn't high on marijuana, would he have been able to have the mental capacity to get control of his car? So it's just things like that, you know, that chain of events from just one decision of getting high, just like that decision of saying getting drunk, you know, cause and effect.
I think this is Beth Dutton reincarnated. This sounds like Yellowstone out there.
Hey, is this Beth Dutton we're talking to here?
That's a huge compliment, right?
I'm
I
not
love
so
it.
sure if that's true. I mean, she's pretty. Anyway, very interesting. Very. By the way, I was going to ask the question. I wish I would have prepped you both a bit more for this, but do we know that crime rates will increase if marijuana? I mean, it sounds like a really silly question, but do we have the statistics to show that if you have marijuana, crime rates will increase?
I'm gonna let Katie answer this one because I haven't done any research.
I haven't done enough research on that, but I did go, and that's the thing, I wish I had it pulled up right now. But what I do have is on my group Facebook page called We the People of Belfouche, South Dakota. I posted the video of one of these representations from Protecting South Dakota Kids, and they go through all that complete with slides and everything. And these cops do say that. And that's where, like, when you talk about like the grow farms and the drug cartels wanting it, you know, and it's like Butte County has already struggled with this for decades. And it's like, what's going to happen when you make it legal? It's just going to be a flood. Some people don't think that's true. Some people have come up and said, South Dakota is already a conservative state. So when you have a conservative state legalize marijuana and they got more laws, then you'll be fine. But I'm saying, well, look at Colorado, because it used to be conservative and looked what happened to it. You can find that talk on my page if you want and watch that, or even Protecting South Dakota Kids. I'm sure they can get people connected with that too, and all the slides and everything if people wanted to look that up.
So what happened to me is I saw Jim Kenyon on YouTube. Somebody sent me a link and I'm like, what's Jim Kenyon doing? Is this what you're talking about, protecting? What was it again?
Yeah, he started it. I guess it was like some interfaith meeting or something. They realized we have 100 days to fight this and we need to do this. So he and other pastors of other faiths got together, started this up. It's protectingsdkids.com. And yeah, Jim Kenyon has headed it up, and they are just going nonstop around South Dakota to really get people informed about the truth of these things.
Okay, let's move to takeaways. What is your takeaway from this subject matter today? Katie, what's your takeaway from all this?
From like all of the voting, or just legalizing marijuana?
From our conversation today.
Yeah, our conversation.
Oh my gosh.
What do you want our listeners to know? What do you want them to take away?
I just want people to know that we have to do our own homework on these things. The last thing that I would say people should do is to call up your friend and just say, tell me how to vote, because you're letting that other person vote for you. You need to do the work and the legwork and make your vote count by learning what you're voting on, whether it's a person or, the subject like initiated measure 27, so that you can really make an informed decision on this, because you're the one that is guiding and directing our state and our country.
Awesome. Dennis?
I like it. I'm drawn to that old adage of when good men do nothing, evil prevails. And I think our election process is the most clearest opportunity that every good citizen has an opportunity to, through the lens of legal and the lens of country and the lens of nationalism, to put evil back in the box. And whether that's a bad politician, if it's bad policy, if it's a bad initiated measure, I'm going to echo what Katie said. You have to do the homework. But on top of that, you have to show up. You have to show up and make your voice count. Otherwise, you can't complain about the way your neighborhoods are. You can't complain about what happens at a Friday night football game if you aren't showing up and making that choice for where our country's going to go in our communities. So show up, make a decision.
All right.
Your takeaway.
I'm thinking about my takeaway, and this is what I'm going to do when it comes to voting. If I'm unsure, I'm not going to vote. I'm not going to vote for, if I'm unsure about John Thune, I'm not going to vote for him. And I'm unsure about John Thune. So he might not nobody might get a vote. And I would say if you're unsure about, is it Constitution B, Constitutional Amendment D?
Amendment D.
And I am 27. If you're unsure, I'm not telling you how to vote, but maybe a way to vote is no. If you're not sure we should bring recreational marijuana, maybe we're just not ready for that yet.
Right.
Yeah.
If you don't know.
Or don't vote on that one.
Well, on these, if you don't know, you shouldn't vote yes, because you're voting for something you don't understand. It's easier to vote no and have those parties come back to you and educate you better.
Yeah. A no vote is a vote.
That's right.
It's a vote.
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you, Dennis and
Katie.
Gosh, this has been a great conversation. Beth Dutton is, we have a new Beth here. I like that. Beth Dutton is in the house this week.
I'll take it.
Well, anyway, may God strengthen
the bars of your gates.
God bless you, everybody.
God bless.
Hey, thanks for listening to the Glenn Gower Podcast, sponsored by Mission Blueprint. Mission Blueprint is a nonprofit ministry started by Glenn and Jamie to sanctify the family. Our income is donation-based, and we need your help. Please support us financially by going to www.mission-blueprint.org and be a part of our financial team. Thank you, and may God strengthen the bars of your gate.